Good morning and welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I'm Lisa O'Connor. I am the chair of the Department of Information Library and Research Sciences. That's the first time I said it without stumbling through it. Yeah, that's a celebration. I want to thank first of all, I'm going to thank the Cora Foundation for funding this. A little bit about Cora. She was born in Memphis, Tennessee, September 8th, 1913, a Virgo, obviously. She began her career as a teacher in rural Tennessee in 1932 and eventually became a leader and an advocate for school libraries. She was the recipient of numerous honors and awards at both the regional and national level. She was a strong advocate for school libraries and testified before the United States House of Representatives and Senate committees on 6 occasions. President Lyndon B. Johnson invited her to attend the signing of pro-library legislation in 1964. Bomar served as president of the American Association of School Librarians from 1936 to 1964. 1963 to 1964. Sorry, that would have been a 30-year, that would have been a long presidency. She was appointed the first director of North Carolina's Division of Educational Media School Libraries, and school media programs grew tremendously under her direction. This is something that we can't say now, I don't think, but virtually every secondary and primary school in North Carolina had a central library and a librarian. In 1969, Bomar joined our faculty here at what was then Library Science and Technology Department. She remained here until her retirement in '79. And she died here in Greensboro in March 18th, 2008 at the ripe old age of 94. So we honor her today and thank her family for this, this endowment and what it makes possible. I'd like to take just a second to acknowledge who you are. So who do we have here, alums of the program? Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you all. Do we have current students? Yay, good one. That's good. Faculty of ILRS. Thanks y'all for being here. We have some library faculty here. And friends, the rest of you, everyone else. Thank you and welcome. We really appreciate you being here.
We also have some online folks who raised their hand.
Oh, good, good, good. I want to tell you really quickly about this. This is our prize for the day. This is a basket from Seagrove, a bowl, I mean, and it has 4 books from North Carolina authors and some North Carolina food, including something you won't want to miss, which is pickled okra. This basket is worth about $250, and it is up for grabs today. But we're going to shamelessly promote the Student Assistance Fund through LIS. It helps us send students to conferences and support them in a number of different ways. Here are the instructions on how to give. If you'd like to do that sometime this morning, then fill out one of these little sheets saying that you gave. You don't have to put down the amount, and it can be any amount. It's all appreciated. And we'll take these up and we'll draw for the basket at the end. So please do that. All right, just some housekeeping. The restrooms, if you go through these glass doors, then you go through the second glass doors and the restrooms are to the left. If we get temperature problems, let us know and we'll have them adjust. Otherwise, we're really happy to have you and we'll get started. So Hamid, Dr. Nadir, could you come?
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hamid Nadir. I am an assistant professor in ILRS department. I still need to take some time to say our department name. I'm so used to ILS. So. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Our guest speaker is Dr. Olgun Sadiq. Dr. Olgun Sadiq is a lecturer in the Intelligence System Engineering Department at Lady School of Informatics in Indiana University, Bloomington. Dr. Sadiq received a PhD from in instructional system technology from the same university and also had a degree in computer education. Before working at Indian University, Dr. Sadiq worked at the Middle East Technical University in Turkey as an associate professor, which is the highest ranking university there. So he comes with an impressive background. Dr. Sadiq actively engages in workshops and seminars to promote the effective, efficient, and ethical uses of generative AI in K-16. But I like to conclude my talk with a story. So 10 years ago, there was a graduate student who wanted to change the world, change the life. So he came to the PhD program. But he was not a traditional graduate student because he came with two little children and a family and really trying to navigate the graduate school landscape. So the first year, he met a lot of people in the department because the department was really rich with diverse candidates, diverse PhD students. So one of them asked him one day, and he was a really senior cohort, so he was almost getting out. He asked me, "Hey, I'm working on this. Do you want to collaborate?" And that was something for the young aspiring student because it was not every day that someone like senior comes to you and asks to work with you. And he felt really appreciated and he felt really valued. And he worked with that fellow colleague. And that was his first publication he was able to publish. And that young man was myself, and the senior colleague was my good friend, Dr. Olgun Sadiq. So I like to really give him a lot of applause for coming here and giving this talk. We appreciate your expertise. A good friend and a good colleague, Dr. Olgun Sadiq. Thank you.
That was a very good introduction. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I mean, because you were very hardworking, so that's why I wanted to work with you. So give me 1 second. I can share my screen. And then I will keys. Right. So this is the beautiful sample gate of Indiana University. Again, thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm very excited and happy to be here. Today, I will try to share you my experience working on AI and generative AI. I work as an associate professor in Turkey doing research on emerging learning technologies. Now, as a lecturer, I teach software system engineering courses, which includes innovation and design, software system engineering and ethics in AI and engineering education. So that's my teaching area, plus I continue doing research on generative AI and AI in education. I would like to start with a quick icebreaker activity. We will just answer a question, and I don't know if you use mentor.com. There are two ways that you can access. You can go to mentor.com, use the code, or you can just scan the QR code, and then we will have a quick discussion. So the question is asking you to define AI in 3 words. Is it working? Sometimes the code changes automatically. Good. Again, if the QR code doesn't work from far, after you go mentor.com, you can use the code 48369773. 48369773. I'm gonna switch my screen to 90, and then we'll discuss answers.
Think of the nice way of doing that. How pretty.
Is it working?
Just one moment, I'm bringing it over.
Perfect. We are getting the answers. So after we see the answers, we will look at the word cloud. And I would like to have maybe one or two people talking about the answers. So what patterns or surprises do you notice? Do the words reflect your own understanding of AI? Do they challenge it? So let's take a look at it. And then I will have my own reflection. So these are, that's a very diverse. Because I have been doing this type of activities for the last 2 years, usually it's not this much diverse. It's a very good thing. It's a very good thing. But I would like to hear your ideas. So do any volunteers, after you look at this, do you see any patterns or surprises? Does it reflect your understanding? Okay. Any volunteers? Please. May I have your name, sorry?
Yeah, I'm Cora.
Laura.
Thought partners is an interesting concept.
Thought partners. I think I understand. I see that because it's basically, I can tell you a quick story. I have so many stories about generative AI. My wife's mother was with us last month, and then she started seeing us talking to AI, and she said, "Can you install this to my phone? And when I go on my home, I can have a conversation with it." So yeah, installed, and we can have conversation partners. All right, thanks so much. Others? Any patterns or surprises you see? Maybe one more. Can you see it? It's very hard to see. I don't know if I can try to make it larger. I can see it better here, but let me take a look at. So there's scary from the other side. Unclear. Yes, inevitable is one that I'm going to talk about. Dialogic, helpful, collaborative technology, overrated. We'll see. After I make my presentation, we'll talk about this overrated. Unregulated, yes, that's very important concern. Yes, so basically, this is one of the most interesting answers that I received from my presentation. I made more than interesting means in a good way, by the way. I made presentations to more than 2,000 people. It's 2,500 almost about generative AI in the last 2 years. So I can say this is very diverse. Well, let me go back to my PowerPoint and please pause me. I mean, interrupt me whenever you want to ask a question, because when I start talking, I just talk on stuff. And so, good. It's a good start. Let's talk about AI first. What AI is. Actually, it has been with us for a long time without we recognize it. So when you go to your video streaming platform, it makes recommendations. When you go social media, especially teenagers, they see posts that are related to their interest, mostly every time. And it's an off topic, but I think there are two dangers for education today. One is excessive technology use, social media. The AI platforms, algorithms are crazy, just creating dependency with children and teenagers and young people. That's AI, what AI is doing. But Again, that's off topic. Navigation apps we use. The smart thermostat you use at home. Those are all AI systems. We don't recognize them, but they are living with us. This phone is collecting information from me because I gave permission to Google to collect information and just listening to me and learning from me, not personally. They don't care about me as a person, but they see us as all data to inform and train their systems. Every action we take online, digital work becomes data for AI technologies, yes. So the COVID pandemic especially made us more dependent on digital technologies. We adjusted to remote work, online learning, virtual healthcare. When I want to go to doctor, I don't go to the office if it's not something I need to show. I just go to my phone and then just make a quick appointment to my virtual meeting with my doctor. So AI became something we relied on daily. Of course, we worry about our personal data, that's for sure. However, we cannot really, the benefits AI provides or technology provides is basically hard to give up. So one day, this is a real experience. I decided to turn off all the permissions that I gave to Google. I spent possibly like 2 hours. I'm talking about 5 years ago. I just cancel. And what message I received at the end? You cannot use Google services anymore, even the search engine, because I don't give them my data. So basically, if you are not paying for something, for a product, you are the product. You probably heard this. What is AI? Basically, AI refers to computer systems that can perform tasks that usually require human intelligence. Traditional AI, I'm going to talk about the newer systems as well, collects data, but when we say data, it's big data. So internet made it available. So basically with the internet, we have so much data available for AI systems. And it starts finding patterns and then it makes predictions based on predefined tasks. That's a keyword, predefined tasks. So there's no such an AI system that can do everything that humans can do. And there are different types designed for different purposes. Computer vision, robotics, autonomous systems, natural language processing. There are 3 main general types of AI. The traditional one that we use is called narrow AI. Narrow AI is basically designed for specific tasks and operates under predefined conditions, and it cannot think beyond its programming, so beyond its algorithm. So basically, the algorithm that it's designed limits its capability. But there's also general AI. A general AI is it's basically theoretical. We don't have that yet. It is like an AI that has human-like intelligence, like reasoning, thinking, solving problems. But there's the third type of AI, which is futuristic. We don't have that yet too. It's a super AI that surpasses human intelligence, that has emotions, so like us, but it's futuristic again. It's like researchers are thinking that's possible, but we are not there yet. Problem solving, decision making. I would like to quickly give you some examples from the AI history, because in order to understand today's systems, we need to understand what happened in the history. Alan Turing, I'm sure most of us heard it, is basically the father of modern computing. Proposed the idea that machines could imitate human thinking, and it happened in 1950s. So, and he proposed Turing test. How many people heard the Turing test? Most of us. Have you tried playing Turing test before? Anyone tried Turing test? Okay, we're gonna play a small version of Turing test. We'll see how it works. So what happens? So Turing was proposing that if a machine can exhibit intelligent behavior, indistinguishable from that of human, that's basically a real intelligent system. How does it work? We have 3 agents. I don't know if you can see the image over there, but so there's human, and there's computer behind the wall, and there's also a judge on the other side of the wall. So the judge asks question to both sides, and then both sides respond with a text. The judge cannot see which one is human, which one is computer. So then if the judge cannot really distinguish AI from human, that means the machine has the Turing test. So it's an intelligent looking, mimicking human machine. So the game is what I did. I like these kind of fancy examples. We're gonna go fancy again. I sent a prompt to ChatGPT, and this was a prompt. Act as a faculty member in a Department of Information Library and Research Sciences. That's the name of the department, right? Because seems like everyone's okay at a higher education institution, and answer the following two questions. So basically, this is the initial prompt, and after that prompt, I ask two questions to generate ChatGPT. So you will answer those two questions. Give me 1 second. I need to start the presentation. Let me share my screen. The thing is, while you are answering a question, I also ask the same question to ChatGPT and will share ChatGPT's response in between your answers. And then I'm going to ask you to identify which one was ChatGPT's answer. It's kind of the Turing test. I mean, not really Turing test, but we'll see. All right, give me 1 second. All right. Where's my mentee? Here. Go back. Go back. Turing test. Right. I have the responses. Okay. So you should be able to
Activate it.
Sharing and sharing. That's good. All right, good.
It's a different code.
Can you see it when you go to QR code?
I think
The
it's a
code
different
is
code.
7297 4676. 7297 4676. Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to present, but just when I click on it, it doesn't work. It was coming, I just canceled it. Are you able to answer the question? Okay.
Press H to show responses.
You said the numbers. And 7697 4676. Oh, I said 76. I'm so sorry. 7297 7297 4676. I'm trying to also share my response here. That's why I'm trying multitasking. But a very good multitasking person.
Yeah, meant to me.
I know this takes time. We can just do maybe one question. Okay, we can just do one question. And so, all right. I open the responses.
Prayer.
So these are the responses that we received. I just need to close this. Okay. I need a volunteer. We can just do one question because we have so many things to talk. So do we have a volunteer who can try to identify the AI response? Again, this is just a fun activity. We'll just, we need a volunteer first.
Probably the one that's got really.
Okay, you want to be the volunteer?
Do what?
Do you want to be the volunteer or discuss? We need to discuss this.
Oh, I was just gonna say the one that's got the actual artist.
Okay, which one?
Didn't start the fire by Billy Joel because it listed the.
In the middle column.
Didn't start, okay. So you think this, why do you think that is?
Because it's got the artist, none of
Okay.
the others have the artist.
All right, we have other,
Oh, there's a couple others.
couple others, okay. Any other ideas? I'm just going down. Okay, let me narrow down this. The answer is in one of these. Okay, right?
I are the daily grind too. And excellence because it defines why I chose it.
Yes, that's a good one. Yes, you got it. So that was AI response, but it wasn't explicit all the time. You got it. And your name was?
Kaylee.
Kaylee. So yes, that was the eye of the tiger for the daily grind and pursuit of academic excellence. So the second question was asking, let me go to the second one. You don't have to answer it. What is the best part of being a faculty member? Do we have any responses? We can hear answer like you already put, okay. So, and I didn't put mine yet, but it's okay. So knowledge generation and teaching the next generation, these are human responses, but AI response was inspiring curious minds and shaping future researchers. The thing is, the previous response was more humorous, so like surviving, like whatever, and the second one is more like scholarly, right? So we don't know. I mean, it acts freely, so like a very random. So, but it's I know people try Turing test on ChatGPT and it has 60% success. So it's very high percentage success for Turing test. Anyway, good. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. It's interesting. I mean, I try these things all the time. Need to stop sharing. Perfect. Basically, the concept of artificial intelligence goes back to 1950s. 1956 was the first time we heard the term artificial intelligence. It was at Dartmouth College at a workshop meeting. So then a group of scholars came together and trying to explore if intelligence systems are possible. And this is basically marking the beginning of AI history. But I'd like to tell you, anyone watched this movie before? Can you raise your hand? How many? Oh, that's okay. So many people. Okay, because I gave a presentation last week at SITE conference, Society of Information Technology Teacher Education Conference, and it had about 38 people, and most of them didn't hear it. But this is a very unique movie. It's okay. Like a few years ago, it was a Sunday morning, and I was reading research on AI, and I saw the movie name again. I think it was like before ChatGPT, I remember. And I decided to watch it. And then I started playing, and the start was like a classic movie, like a very horror type of sound, and then monkeys are kind of attracting it, like killing each other. Remember that? And the monkeys, what is this? And I said, I don't know. Oh, and then I watched it because I saw it in the research part. Anyway, so then I watched the movie, and it was very interesting. And this movie was available before internet, before computers, 1968. So the movie, most of you know, introduces HAL. HAL 9000 is an AI system guiding astronauts going to Mars. However, as the mission progressed, HAL, the AI, started acting weird, making decisions without human communication. So then, let me show you the other problem. Oh, can I share my sound right now? If otherwise you can hear it.
Open the
Right. And you don't have to. But then they can me hearing you, I could show your lips. Again, that's okay. Okay, so this movie, can you hear me? Dilemmas that we debate today. So predicted all the way back in 1968. So it's basically a very important topic. And until 1990s, we didn't have much discussion about AI. It was like AI winter, AI spring. So basically 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But then we reached the 1990s. 1996, IBM developed a computer called Deep Blue. Have you heard Deep Blue? Remember the competitions with Deep Blue versus Kasparov? So the world's largest, biggest chess player, Garry Kasparov, competed against Deep Blue, IBM's Deep Blue, first time, 1996. And then Kasparov won. However, Kasparov did not know that IBM is improving the system. And 1997, Deep Blue was able to make 200 million calculations in a second. Imagine that. So then they competed again. Then 1997, Kasparov made a trap, but Deep Blue made a human-like move, and then in 6 moves won the game. So then AI became so popular. So everyone's talking about AI. But then 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, something happened. It was an unexpected move. I have a friend in my department working on robotics and working with military. And he's one of the top 10 people in the world on military robotics. And I had a conversation, interview with him about generative AI. And he said, on that day, we had a meeting with the world's most famous robotics AI people with military. And then we looked at each other. What is this? No one was expecting it. This is like the new internet. So it's really a big move. It's a game changer. It's a major milestone. It reached more than 1 million people in less than 5 days. Large language models. What is a large language model? Or ChatGPT? ChatGPT means generative chat, GPT generative pre-trained transform. I know you know this. It generates human-like text based on a given text input. And pre-training refers to its basically large collection of text. And let me explain it with an example. This is technical definition. This is like library department. I'm going to give an example from a library. Imagine a massive library with word sentences, ideas, the whole collection knowledge of humanity. And at the very center of this library, there's a library, but it's a machine. The machine doesn't think like a human. However, it's a master of patterns and connections. When you give it a starting point, like a sentence or idea, we call prompt, it works like a hard-working library, and it basically organizes the shelves, gathering relevant information, and then piecing it together to create something unique, something new. The result is really human-like. This is a small example of a language model. A PhD student in California, Emily, used a book, you probably heard of Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham, and trained a system, a language model, using just text in that book, and generated this example. It's hard to see in this screen, but so basically there's some thickness differences between these lines. If you look, there's I, and there's am, do, and would. 3 words come from Atra. The thickness of the lines between words represents the probability of certain words appearing after others. In this case, would and do is higher, has higher frequency than others. Imagine this with billions of parameters that it can basically generate a unique text. 2 years ago, I was at ABET conference. ABET is engineering accreditation in an institution. I was the lead person. I attended a workshop with one of the OpenAI's developers, so that who created this system. And he said, we designed the algorithm. We know how the algorithm works, but we don't understand how it generates these new things that doesn't exist in data. It is something we couldn't understand. That's why we are having difficulties dealing with all the bias in the data, making it more accurate and better quality. So we talk about large language models. Generative AI, large language models just working on the text. And it's basically the system I explained. Generative AI is a broader term. It is a similar artificial intelligence using similar algorithms and models, but it has the ability to generate new content, images, videos, text, code. So it's generative AI is the broader term for all generative technology. They have so many advantages they provide us, benefits. So basically, the ability to generate new content. The traditional AI cannot do that. Traditional AI already has some tasks and data, computer vision. You show an apple, it shows an apple, but it doesn't define the apple. But when you show the same to generative AI, it shows apple and it says it's very healthy for you. If you eat one apple a day, the doctors say you get more healthy. So it basically gives you like ideas, opinions, but it doesn't understand at the same time. Anyway, it helps productivity, it helps accessibility problems, it personalizes the content because as you continue conversing with a generative AI, it learns from you and it gives you more personalized outcomes. It's very helpful for software development. As a software system engineering instructor, my students are using them daily. And then it's very helpful for research. I use so many generative AI tools for research purposes as well. I can talk more about them. But they have limitations because they are still narrow AI. We are not talking about generative AI or like super AI. So they have biased and inaccurate data set because the data set coming from internet, all the junk of internet is basically training these systems, all the books, yes, good quality books, bad quality books, articles, everything, all the bias is trained. Its creativity is limited by its existing data because basically as you improve the data, the quality and creativity increases. It's hallucinating. It basically, if you ask ChatGPT to give you an article on a topic, it gives you an article that doesn't exist. No researcher, no article, that's basically fake. So, but there are other tools that can give you valid responses. And it doesn't understand what it says. However, people, as human beings, we like to make connections. So in this case, as we talk with those generative AI, it creates an ELIZA effect. Anyone heard ELIZA effect before? ELIZA, so basically 1970s, people started creating small AIs and then use them for psychological support tools. And then people started making connections to those very basic AI systems. And in the literature, it's called ELIZA effect, making connections and acting is a real identity. So basically, even though these systems does not understand what they say, we give them an identity.
Are you saying ELIS?
ELIZA.
ELIZA.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Perfect. Yeah.
I just want to tell people how old I am. So in 1978, I was dating somebody who was in the psychology department at Boston University. And Eliza was
ELIZA, maybe. Yes, that's ELIZA.
was set up to be basically a chat box for people who with psychological problems. And so I actually tested Eliza a few times, and it was kind of like having a conversation with a fake person. So I just wanted to make sure I.
Great, thanks so much for your contribution. Basically, the system was very basic conditional program. So, people use it for supporting education as well, as we are trying to use ChatGPT or other GenAIs. So imagine a student just type, I am having problems with math. And then the system responds, why do you think you have problems with math? And then the student responds, I don't understand what my teacher explains. Oh, really? Why do you think your teacher is not explaining math? So it's basically just responding with a question, and then people make connections to those systems. Again, going back, so basically, yes, we are making connections. But we have so many concerns. If this is a different presentation topic, I'm really, because I'm teaching the ethics course, and these are the topics we are discussing with my students, but security issues. So these systems can be used for misuse by bad actors, for phishing emails or malware, providing instructions for illegal activities or misinformation. They can generate mass-produced misinformation, fake news, false statistics, social biases. So basically reflects internet's biases, cultural issues. So one dominant worldview or Western worldview may basically shape the global narratives. It basically can happen. Economic issues, job displacement, creativity, copyright issues. So basically gray areas around intellectual property, academic integrity at risk in education, especially students are just using it for cheating but not learning, and energy consumption. Do you know how much energy ChatGPT is using? I asked ChatGPT this morning because it increases every day, and basically giving a reference to a paper, ChatGPT's hourly energy usage is comparable to the daily consumption of approximately 57,586 households. So one day, 57,000 people energy uses for 1 hour.
People often use ChatGPT to write their resumes.
Yeah, I mean, for
I've seen
everything.
that online, I've been seeing, they're going on, they're teaching you on Facebook of all places. Well, this is how you use it to write the resume, this is how you make it to where it matches up to the job and that. And now the job people, what I'm seeing, are actually trying to check your resume to make sure you're not using ChatGPT, because they want you to write it for yourself.
Interestingly, because recently I was one of the committee members of the job search committee, and we received 165 CVs, and we had 70 resumes written by ChatGPT, not resumes, but statement papers. So, and they were very similar. So, which is a bad sign, but.
My boyfriend also teaches at a community college in Kentucky. He is irritated with his students because they use AI because they're not really doing their own research, and he's like, they're so lazy. I can't get them to do their own research. They use this AI stuff and they write their papers with AI, and I don't want AI, and their school is doing everything they can to say, you're not allowed to use AI, you're not allowed to use AI. And he has to fight with his students all the time about it because they don't want to do their own work.
Yeah, but I would like to give you some suggestions for that. I mean, I have similar challenges in my courses as well, but we'll have some discussion around that topic. So academic integrity is one of the issues that we need to deal with in using genetic AI.
I know if he was here, he'd have a lot to say about it. He gets so frustrated.
I am sure. Yes, sustainability, energy consumption is one of the major issues. This is basically in a paper I recently wrote. I talk about this. When it comes to generative AI, I'm just going to read a little bit. Everyone seems to have mixed feelings, all of us, because we don't fully understand it, know exactly how to make sense of it. That's in my paper I'm reading to you. This is a strange kind of relationship, one we are not used to. Gen AIs are technology that understands us, talks like a human, answers everything, admits every mistake, never complains. constantly praises us, apologizes when needed, makes us feel like we are talking to a person, even though we know it's not. And that's why we don't quite know how to react. Honestly, this whole situation reminds me of those complicated relationships studies on social media. Have you had that, like it's Facebook? Some people love this technology, but pretend they don't. Some are scared and keep their distance, thinking, I don't want to get into trouble with ethics and all that. Some play hard to get. They feel guilty when they hear others using it. Some want to maintain their authority and comfort zone, and they tell their students, you think you can cheat with AI? From now on, everything is written X. And then there are those who are madly in love with this technology. And that's why I compare our relationship with generative AI to the hormonal imbalances of adolescence. This transition period is teaching us something new every day about interaction between humans and AI. That's basically a piece of my paper, recent paper. Right. But it's a serious army. Even though we have this sense of mixed feelings, it has so many different uses, especially for teaching and learning. So this part, my focus area. Okay, I am using it, and I am sure all of us using it every day. I wish I had ChatGPT or other tools I used when I was a PhD student, because I remember paying $1,000 for proofreading. I mean, I paid it to a friend, but it was so much money for a grad student. But now I use it for communication purposes. For instance, consistency is a key in education. As an educator, I'm going to talk about those things now. Send messages, announcements to my students every week, same day, same time, talking about what we did, what we are going to do. Before ChatGPT, this was taking so much time. But now I have my PowerPoints. I'm just uploading 2 PowerPoints, one from last week, one from next week. ChatGPT, create me an announcement, explain me and now because I'm using it all the time, it knows what I am expecting, and it generates an announcement in 10 seconds. Last week we did this, great job, you are great, you spent so much time working on this. Next week we are going to learn this. Be ready for it, make sure to watch the videos and read the papers. 10 seconds, productivity. Professional uses proofreading. I mean, I use it for I have ChatGPT paid version, and the paid version has temporary chat. Have you used temporary chat? Okay. So basically, when you have the paid version, it gives you the option to choose temporary or the regular version, I would say. The temporary version does not keep your data. If I want to proofread my papers, I use a temporary chat because it doesn't collect that data, it deletes it. So then I do proofreading for everything. Anyway, use it for learning purposes. My department asked me to teach that ethics class 2 weeks before the semester starts, and I designed a whole class about ethics in 2 weeks. God, I have ChatGPT. So I use it for summarizing. We had a guest speaker a couple months ago, and then he was talking about his book, and I didn't know, but I looked at the room and so many people read the book. I felt guilty, and I asked ChatGPT, summarize me this book in less than 200 words. And oh, I know what it is. So good. Okay, so making explanations. I use it for communicating with my daughters. I have 2 daughters. The younger one, believe me, 2 years ago did not like reading. And I said, her name is Gülce. Gülce, do you want to read today? Her answer is no. But then, what if you want to read? What would you read? He said, nothing. I'm asking, what if you want to read? Like, let's say, maybe something about archaeology. All right, good, sounds interesting. So what else? Maybe an American girl visiting Turkey, an archaeological site, and finding a mystery. She's telling me a story, right? As she was telling me, I was typing her story to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, generate, okay. And then I asked her, if there's a story like that, how many words would you read? She said 100.
Oh, my.
Come on, you are a fourth grader. You want to read a story, but you cannot make a story with 100. Well, let's make it 2,000. I know she's gonna not read 2,000 words, but we negotiated and we ended up like, I don't remember, 500, 1,000. And as she was giving me those things, I was basically typing ChatGPT to generate me a story around what she wants. And then I asked ChatGPT, do not finalize the story. We are gonna do it. So then she started reading those stories. We started doing those consistently every day. It's a fun game-based gamification activity with giving her autonomy, because that is the intrinsic motivation. You know what? Believe me, my older one was reading. She's little reading still, but the younger one that we did those activities, she reads book everywhere because she now figure out the enjoy of reading. Anyway. Teaching learning. And I'm not going to give so many examples, but I use ChatGPT for like in my classes a lot, especially coding classes, because students are learning exams from each other. And then every semester I need to change the questions. ChatGPT helped me a lot. Design lesson plans, create learning objectives. Especially we have some abstract concepts that it's hard to define, explain in coding. And I'm teaching the Innovation and Design E101, Introduction to Engineering class. And I need to explain what a variable is. I need to explain what a function is. So ChatGPT and other tools. I use ChatGPT, but it's just one example. I have so many other tools I'm using for making things more concrete for my students and kind of creating examples, activities. I use ChatGPT for creating assessments, open-ended projects, creating rubrics. I sometimes use Microsoft Copilot, which is Indiana University's generative AI with our agreement with Microsoft. So basically Microsoft, with our agreement, is not collecting data from us. With FairPart, I am not allowed to use ChatGPT for students' work, but using Microsoft Copilot, I just use my assignment description as a prompt and then provide the rubric. And my students are writing at the end of the semester between 1,000 and 2,000 lines of code. And I have 50 students, and my university expecting me to grade those and then give feedback in 2 days, which is impossible. So Copilot helped me a lot. I am doing the grading, but based on the Copilot's feedback, based on my rubric. So those are so many different uses of using generative AI. Looking at my time, so basically lunch starts at 11:30. I have still other things to talk. I'm gonna talk 15 more minutes and then 15 minutes for the Q&A. Sounds like a good plan? Okay. But to be able to get good outcome, we need to use good prompts. And everyone uses prompts, but the quality of the prompt basically will decide or impact the quality of your output. And I use personas. So act like a teacher, act like a student, act like an engineering student. That's very important. So prompting is one of the keys. However, when you create a prompt, this is a kind of a framework that you can see similar frameworks everywhere. You need to talk about the role, like act like a teacher, designer, administrator. You need to give information about output, lesson plan, framework, activity ladder. The context is key, very important. So lesson level, learning level, and the project. So those are the necessary details for a quality outcome from a generative AI. When we talk about context, basically, we need to talk about audience. We need to talk about subject topic, learning goals. So those are for teaching learning. What we are doing actually, if you don't give the context, so if you don't say act like a teacher, imagine the whole system is running 1 billion, 2 billion, depends on the tool parameters. But when you give it a role, you are kind of creating a filtering mechanism. So that filter, okay, this person is looking at teacher role. So then basically looks at resources that has teacher in it. And when you say K-12 or higher education, looks at higher education. So then when you look at subject, it looks at those. So basically, by conversation, creating those conversations, we are basically filtering the data and receive a better quality data output. But believe me, those are just tools. And for teaching and learning, the most important thing is making correct pedagogical decisions. We all know as educators. So you need to know that in programming, pair programming is a useful technique. So students, when work in pairs, one is a driver, one is a helper, they teach each other because teaching is learning. So basically, you need to specify that from simple to complex is important, first principles of instruction. So you have to basically define your instruction from simple to complex, and then you need to tell the same thing to generative AI. So then you need to know that technology integration is important in today's classrooms. So then you need to have some ideas on how you can use technology. So if you don't know, if you don't make those pedagogical decisions, ChatGPT's output will be general, not really personal for your own context. That's another important detail. But basically, from all between these like important points, motivation, intrinsic motivation is the key, is the first condition for learning. So then the whole thing, the whole design, using ChatGPT as a tool needs to be around increasing students' intrinsic motivation. And this can be achieved by giving students autonomy and control over their learning process, setting realistic goals, achievable goals, aligned with their real life needs or meaningful like interests, right? So those are the three principles. Why I'm explaining this? This is basically what I did with my daughter. I gave her the autonomy. I asked her the goal for basically setting realistic goals. And basically, I also asked her interest. So because archaeology is her interest. So then combining those components made her more interested in reading. So briefly, I will talk about 3 research studies I'm conducting on generative AI. So basically so far we talk about AI, what generative AI is, how it's different. We talk about their benefits, limitations, and concerns, teaching and learning examples, but now research. The first study, I conducted a pink time activity. Anyone knows pink time? General Pink is a newspaper reporter writing about motivation, intrinsic motivation. So using the intrinsic motivation idea, my students in software system engineering class, around week 5, always start getting bored learning programming, and then I need to make something interesting. And I said, today we are not going to be doing lecture. I'm going to give you a tool, and that tool will help you learn arrays in C programming. Okay, that's a specific thing. I'm not going to teach you, but I'm going to give you the objectives. And I would like you to do self-regulatory learning, meaning that the objectives will guide you to write prompts. And I'm going to give you the prompting framework. So basically, I teach them the prompting framework first, and then I gave them the objectives, and then they work in pairs. So look, I'm combining so many contextual details, pedagogical decisions, the tool itself, the objectives. So then they learn arrays in C programming by themselves, working in pairs. And basically 40 students participated. I'm not going to explain the method. I will just skip to the findings. And so they documented their interactions. They provided me all their interactions with ChatGPT. And also they provided evaluations of their learning experiences. So the findings, again, in summary, all of them find, not all of them, but most of them find it enjoyable and a flexible learning experience. They think that ChatGPT helped them solve problems. It was a personal learning assistant, and it was a learning opportunity for most of them. But also there were some disadvantages, limitations. They think that it wasn't enough for advanced learners who already know the topic. So they were looking for more advanced help. And some of them also received incorrect code. So then incorrect code is basically another limitation that they identified. Another study, this is an interesting study, that piece I read from this study. I'm working at the intelligence system engineering department, and almost all of our faculty members are developing AI. So they're robotics, nanoengineering, neuroengineering, environmental engineering, but they are designing and developing AI systems. And I decided to conduct some interviews with them, asking them about what AI is, what is generative AI, how they define it, the impact of generative AI on engineering education, and their future predictions. Again, in summary, most of them define it as just a tool because they know and understand how they work. And they emphasize randomness and unpredictability of the models. And they say they have freedom to choose. So that's basically a unique feature that AI did not have. And it has conversational nature and interactive engagement. That those are the key themes that they used for defining. So then its role in teaching and learning, they say it's inevitable and transformative teaching and learning tool. So basically, we cannot just close our eyes and then just say, I don't care, it's happening. So then we need to be ready. And they define as a valuable assistive tool for engineering education. And as we all know, assessment is harder with generative AI. They emphasize some curricular revisions in engineering education. One, I think these curricular revisions necessary for all the fields, not just engineering education, in education, in library science, information science, research sciences, everything. AI literacy needs to be integrated in education in every level. So we are talking about literacy. I know some people are against using the term literacy when we are using AI literacy because literacy refers to reading and writing, but it's basically understanding what AI is and the kind of how they work to be able to make responsible and appropriate decisions. Incorporating AI ethics in every courses. So at the beginning of the semester, we need to discuss this with our students. Infusing AI discussion in every courses and reassessing student learning objectives because usually learning objectives are low level. So now we need to focus more critical thinking, problem solving, creativity level, and more high advanced objectives when we are designing learning objectives for our courses. The last thing is, for the findings, job market changes. And this is something that's connected to your field as well. Information, they think that information-related jobs will be the most vulnerable for AI. Is it easy to read that over there? I don't know. So like, and problem-solving oriented jobs will be more valuable. And so basically, AI fields becoming more important, and AI literacy, problem-solving, foundation engineering knowledge will be basically the new skills necessary. This is a little off-topic, maybe not, but in the future, I'm thinking a lot as a father of 2 kids. So they will be graduating 33, 35, if I calculated correctly, by the way. So they will be living a different life. And I'm trying to understand what future will bring them. And I am seeing 4 different levels of people. Again, this is just a prediction, I may be wrong, but the lowest level will be just a source for data for those advanced systems. They're just using technology, they're not consuming. Like cell phones listen to us, and then they basically give data to those systems, very low level. And they can easily lose their jobs. Second level is consumers. Consumers are people who uses AI and like advanced technologies for productivity. So they do the jobs, they use AI, increases their productivity, but still low level. The third level is basically, in terms of skills, are developers. Those people who develop these technologies, AI people. So those people will be understanding how they work and then will be developing more advanced tools, etc. But the most valuable, invaluable people will be the decision makers. Who are they? They think critically, they use AI, but they don't let AI to make decisions. They use AI as an information source, but they understand our human needs. So basically, then they make the decisions. They will be the most valuable people we will always meet them. That's basically my prediction. Anyway, 5 minutes, good. The last study that I'm currently conducting, it's just an example. I have not analyzed the data yet, but it's a very interesting study. Again, as an educator, I'm trying to find innovative ways of using generative AI, and in engineering education is one of the fields that will have the biggest impact, because when our students graduate, their employers will be asking them to use these tools for creating things. That's basically productivity, because I recognize it. I don't know if you heard me clearly, but was it okay? Okay, anyway. So then I feel like I need to prepare my students to be able to use these tools, right? And in my software system engineering course, I require them to use Microsoft Copilot, the Indiana University system, to design and develop an educational game using C programming. So they were required, the requirement was using it, everything on Copilot. But the thing is, I gave them all the criteria, the rubric, very detailed. Your game is supposed to include dynamic memory allocation. I gave them criteria about needs to include structs, unions to do this. So the expectation was very high. And then they made a conversation with Copilot. And they basically designed the game. And the game also needs to include United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The rubric was pretty low. And they had to meet all those requirements. That's basically what happens in real life. You have a project with so many different requirements and details, and you meet all of them. So you have objectives, you have constraints. I gave them constraints as well. And what I did, I said, you're going to evaluate your own work. And as a submission, you will provide me your conversations with data. And I basically will analyze their conversations. Plus, you will need to provide me your reflections of the experience. And then your video descriptions of the game experience, plus the explanations of the code. So those data, it's a learning activity that prepare them for using those advanced tools for creating real-life products. But what I'm trying to understand, how students communicate, interact with AI. That's an important thing we need to understand to be able to guide our students. Good, and I don't have findings yet. In summary, for student use, we have 4 goals. We should aim for effective, efficient, ethical, and sustainable use of generative AI. We need to demonstrate these tools as personalized learning assistants for our students. AI literacy is key. Independent from the field, all the students need to understand how these systems work. At the beginning of the semester, we need to discuss with our students. I know you're all using it, don't lie. Do you know what happens? Sometimes, yesterday, this conversation happened. I had an exam in my C class, and 2 students used ChatGPT in the exam, cheated in the exam. So because it was an online exam, so then they just probably. And I said, 2 students failed this exam. They received 100, but they failed because they didn't learn it. They didn't understand their weaknesses. I had these conversations consistently, not every week. I'm just trying to tell them, after you graduate, your diploma does not mean anything. What matters is what you can do. You can use ChatGPT. You know me. I am not a great person. I am not creating surprises for you. I am not evaluating you. I'm just trying to help you learn. Please use it, but don't cheat. You are paying money. So those conversations talk about ethics are important and providing continuous guidance, right? And I have a policy. It's an open-ended policy. Some people have very strict policies in their syllabus. My policy is very flexible. I can share it with you. We have 1 minute left, but I'm almost done. So basically, I think all the syllabus need to have a written policy explaining your expectations and rules from your students in terms of technology use plus generative AI use. I think this is very timely end of my presentation. Also, instead of asking everyone to share the questions, I don't know, we can just have a Q&A session or we can share the questions here. So I'm done. So thank you so much. Do we use this or just have like, I think we can just have conversation.
If you have questions, just raise your hand and I'll.
Yeah,
bring the
that
mic
would
to
be
you.
easy.
This is great.
Thank you.
I wanted to know if you've done any studies or have any data about students possibly using ChatGPT, just personal life stuff. I started using it with my friends. She sent me this meme and she said, we should talk to each other like we're 1400s old timey explorers. So then, you know, she's on maternity leave, she's bored. So we both downloaded ChatGPT on our phones and we would type up the message that we wanted to send. And then we would say, make me sound like an explorer from the 1400s. And it would, you know, just be like, I call her baby mama because she was pregnant. And it says, dearest mother of my offspring. You know, it would go into this long tangent. But basically I'd be like, I can't wait until you have a baby so we can get drunk. And it would give this long, crazy paragraph, but it was so like joyful. And it's such a long process because we would type out what we wanted to say and then copy and paste it, and copy and paste that. But now we can't not talk to each other in that way. And I was just wondering if you have any data in this, other people do that, or are we just weird?
I do other people do that, but my research is on education. But I know and observe, so my research with education and engineering faculty members, they also share their personal use examples. So one is using it for creating game images for games that he's playing with other people. So other people are using it for. My daughter is using it playing games with ChatGPT actually. She's playing a game that basically tells a word and she says another like connected word. So basically she plays games with ChatGPT all the time under my control.
Yeah.
So basically I did my PhD in instructional technology. But then after I became a father, my elementary school, I am against using technology in education. Not against, maybe I'm more exaggerating. But uncontrolled technology is basically dangerous for kids. So I always observe my kids. Yes, I mean, I don't have any data or statistics or research on this topic, but I know I use it, my wife, and then my kids and people use it for personal things. I generate images with my kids. So basically not for educational, but it helps them define something. So basically I ask her, Yuda, can you imagine a picture and then tell me and explain it, and then it generates, and then we basically modify it. It's basically helpful for kids to express themselves. But again, the limit is our creating it as human beings. So it's just a tool. It's a strong tool, powerful tool. But if you know how to use it for meaningful ways, yeah. Again, no data.
So our online folks can't hear you and see you.
Oh, yes.
So we'll get you to
I can
speak
go
over.
ahead. Yeah.
This was really great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was March 21, 2023. Bill Gates issued a 7-page letter announcing that ChatGPT is alive there.
Like error.
Generative AI is about to come, not yet here. But he promised that in a month or so to be here. So I read this to my student, but he was really begging us to help each other to force governments to regulate this area. I see right now that they are begging our students not to use it to cheat. And I'm telling my students to use it, cheat, then go again, give credit, then change it in your own words, because they need to learn as well. So I'm really wondering, do you see any government proposals to regulate this area? Because when I see it at DC, I have seen some politicians were intending to ban use of it in the United States, make it illegal. However, I think it is kind of commercial, so we are seeing lots of tools, and is it still unregulated?
It is in the process of regulating this. There is no microphone here, right? Or-
Okay, we can still hear.
Okay, so in the process of regulating the use of different tools, yes, there is so much effort, and I'm going to propose the new spatial issue on policy actually in a month. So basically, people are exploring because these tools are culturally different too. So in Turkey, people are asking different responses, and then United States it's a different, Europe different, China different. So the governments, European Union working as a whole, I know they have their own policy already. United States, there's a group working on the policy development, but then governmental policies, yes, regulating the companies, but then the companies find other ways. But there's some process. What I would like to comment, you mentioned that some people are just prohibiting students, but some teachers are allowing them. I am one of them allowing. But there will be more task and target-oriented generative AI soon. There are already. For instance, we are all using a learning management systems, right? What learning management system you use? Canvas, same. So basically, imagine. And do you have Turnitin in your canvas like that you can check? Imagine you have a generative AI embedded in your canvas assignments, and you basically make a conversation with it, and then it helps you generate the rubric, and then students have to do the whole assignment in canvas. But the generative AI give them feedback, but not really correcting the mistakes, but just guiding them. Basically, what we do as teachers, guiding them to fix their own mistakes. I'm working on a project right now for writing task, developing an AI embedded in Canvas. So those tools will be more common in education because ChatGPT, external tools, there are so many privacy concerns, there are so many limitations that kids can really be in a problem situation. So then those more task-oriented and kind of controlled in a good way, tools will be available in the market, so that's possible. It's not about just one tool itself, it's about the model and how we can use that model to guide our students' learning experience. And if you're anyone interested in that special issue, if anyone working on policy, it doesn't have to be government level policy. It could be department policy type of research, it could be institution level policy type of research. So what kind of policies your department or your school or university defines and how they impact the practices in your school or institution, whatever. So those kind of open-ended research. So it could be conceptual papers, theoretical papers, or empirical research that is possible. So I can share it with you. So important.
Other questions? Raise your hand.
Hi, thank you for sharing that story about your daughter and the reading. I actually teach a story with my 8th graders, and it's The Lady or the Tiger by Frank Stockton. And then the end of the story, there is no end of the story.
That's what I.
With an ethical, dilemma and how they have to answer the story. So when you were done and your daughter completed the story, did you happen to put it back into ChatGPT to see if there was a difference between what the ChatGPT would come up with as an ending as opposed to the human, your daughter, coming up with a different ending?
Depends. So sometimes we end the story and then we stop the conversation because she doesn't want to do anything. But then sometimes she wants to continue conversation and she types the end and the ChatGPT basically says, great. And then what if this is happening? So then she continued conversing and writing actually. So it helps her writing too. But it's not just one thing we do, like we do multiple things. I'm trying all my pedagogical background knowledge to help them. So yeah, we do multiple activities. Yes, possible. The ChatGPT, she ends the story, done. Sometimes ChatGPT continues conversation. Sometimes you just talk to ChatGPT in a conversation, right? It's like a verbal conversation, but yeah,
Well,
both.
that was an excellent tool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to actually go back next week and start using it with my students.
I mean, for instance, maybe a critic, I'm an educator. So for instance, in elementary levels, students learn spelling, right? But if the intrinsic motivation, one of the components is meaningful goals, what is the goal of learning how to spell things? Limited. So what I do instead, when my kids receive their spelling words, I use ChatGPT to generate sentences, games using those words, and become something more connected to what they need to learn, not just memorizing spelling. Memorization is just rote learning. It doesn't mean anything. It needs to be meaningful, authentic. They need to have autonomy. So those are the neat tools that all the teachers have that they can basically employ to improve the quality of students' work. Yeah. Anyway, that's basically summary. Yeah. Thank you. And I use these tools not just for my daughters. So talk to my students. So I am trying, exploring so many different use of these tools in engineering education. And I didn't mention, sorry, research. Anyone uses like any Gen AI tools for research, literature reviews? Have you tried? If you don't want to share, that's okay. What do you use?
Yeah, I use it for,
Yeah, use the mic so we can bring them online.
I use it for generating, like plans and, you know, kind of the planning stage of it, because when you ask it about, the how of it, it generates really good, I think, really good plans, like as somebody who, you know, has a PhD and has been involved in like research projects and stuff, you see what it generates, you're like, okay, this is good, this maybe needs to be adjusted, whatever. When you ask it for specific resources, like I was like, hey, I want to put these two types of like theory together. What are some examples where people have done similar work in the past that generates, you know, garbage citations? So it's really good at the planning stage and not really good at some of the other stages. So
I use Cite. I mean, I'm not advertising it, but it's a paid service. But Stanford has a new free research tool, generative AI tool that's free, open source, that you can use. If you search Stanford generative AI for research, you can find it. And there are other paid services as well. It's very useful. It's productivity, really. I don't ask generative AI to write me my literature review, but find literature. So, for instance, when I'm writing a discussion section, we all know it's hard to find sometimes articles. So from different perspectives. So Cite helps me a lot. So instead of Google Scholar, I go to Cite and then basically find a study that against or supporting this opinion. And it finds me like 5 studies from last 2 years. And I always do evaluative judgment. What does it mean? I always look at if really the study has that, because that's what we do, right? So if you find a study in Google Scholar, we always need to go to the original site, like paper, and read the findings, look if the abstract really is the representative of what the findings are. The same thing, but it basically makes it faster. I use it for research.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you.
Very informative. But we are, you know, we will use of AI and we know that we're
Could you please, yeah, I cannot. Hey, no, it's on this song, you just get closer. Yeah.
So, my concern is, as educators, all right, we know our students are always using AI. Okay. My question would be, how do you, knowing that, we're having that in mind, how do we, I would say there's no regulation. I mean, whatever policy we put in place, that's not regulation basically we have in place. All right. So, how can we try to mitigate the impact of trying to use AI as a substitute rather than the trying to control the fact that they would tend to, lead to AI for things that probably they should be working on. So what recommendations do you have so that we can make them be better user of AI rather than
trying to use AI to kind of get their way through things.
Multiple things. First, with AI, we need to change our assessment. Not a product-oriented, but process-oriented assessment. We need to rethink about our objectives. So what are the goals? So those are necessary, first of all. So redefine the objectives, redefine your assessment. There is no way to control students cheating. Before AI, it was the case too. Students were cheating with AI too. They were cheating 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The goal is not really preventing them to cheat. There is no way you can do that, and I don't care. Do you know what happened? For instance, I have seen those examples as helpful examples for my students to understand me and the meaning of what I'm trying to do. One student cheated using ChatGPT. I gave her 100, and I just sent her a message. You received 100 from this exam, well reserved. And then she understood my message and came and she said, I apologize, I didn't. And I understand the message. Can I take the exam again? And then she took the exam again. So again, I don't want to control anyone. That's their life, but my responsibility is what skills do they need? Have you heard about backwards design? So basically think about the desired output, transferable learning goals. What do my students need in the next semester when they graduate? So basically I designed the whole instruction based on meaningful learning goals. So then I design my assessment around that goal, and then I design my instruction. That's basically how I approach. With AI, it's the same case. If they want to cheat, I say, and I have been looking at the ChatGPT generated assessments and exams for the last 2 years. I am a very good ChatGPT detector right now. I can look at students' code or answers, and I easily identify ChatGPT generated work. These many students use ChatGPT. They lost opportunities to learn. I'm not gonna fail them. And I just make those conversations. Use it. Use it for your personal learning, professional development, but I don't want to control it. That's impossible. There is no reliable tools. If someone is telling you that they can identify ChatGPT or generated content, no, don't rely, because there is no policy protecting faculty members. If you say, this is ChatGPT generated and you fail a student, you will be guilty, student will be right. So because there's no like a valid tools that identifies those. And the policies are protecting students because there's no way to clearly identify it. So in this case, I don't aim to control, I aim to guide.
Well, that is our time. We thank you.
Perfect.